So you want to fly your drone legally over people and moving vehicles. And you want to know what it takes to get the waivers in order to do so. That's what we're here to discuss today. This is one of the biggest questions that I get across all of my social media channels. How do you do this? Is it legal? You know, the FAA, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, it is all legal and it can be done. There's just, several steps you got to take in order to do it. So let's get into it. Before we begin, let's talk about the prerequisites, right? You have your trust. That's the first thing that you're going to get when you buy a drone. It's mandatory to have that. Technically, they don't tell you that when you buy the drone, but before you fly the drone, you must have your trust. And it's free and it's very easy to get. Just go online and look up trust certificate and get it. It'd take you like an hour, really. You register your drone, you get it all done, and you got your trust. Then you can go out and just start flying legally once you know the basic rules. The second thing you need is your Part 107. So this is also a prerequisite for these waivers, right? You have to have that in place. And if you don't have that and you're curious, keep following along. But before I start going into this procedure, just know that you do have to have that. Okay, before I go into the waivers you're going to need and what it takes to get them, I want to point out a couple of resources, right? The first is going to be Vic Moss. He is an authority when it comes to drones. He knows this policy in and out and has done a great job of explaining how to fill out these forms, because they can be a little daunting when you go to the FAA website and you got to fill all this stuff out. It's like, what does that mean? What does this mean? He has done an excellent job of explaining this, particularly for these operational waivers that we're talking about today. So check it out. Here's the link, and I'll provide the link in the description. The other is Pilot Institute. They've done a great job of explaining it as well. Greg is always is really eloquent with his videos. He's also where I went to get my Part 107. So I have a lot of faith in these guys that they're really up to date with everything. So I'll leave a link to that above as well as the description. Check these guys out. They already have a lot of information on this. Okay, so let's talk about the specific waivers we're going to be requesting. Okay, first is 107.145, and that's operations over moving vehicles. I'll put something up here so you can see what that blurb looks like from the FAA website. Look it over and just understand what that means. The other is 107.39, and this is for operations over people as well. So take a look at that. And these are the two waivers that we're going to be applying for. Weights and measures. Let's talk about what weights dictate what kind of operational requirements you're going to need. So for your larger drones, and that's over 8.88 pounds and less than 3.5 pounds, I'm referencing my notes here, what you're going to need for that. One's going to be a parachute. This is a big thing. If you're going to have a heavier drone, you have to have the parachute, hands down. If that's going to be a problem for you, then I would stop right here, because without that, it's not going to happen. Okay. Second, is prop guards. Now, there's discussion on whether or not on the bigger drones you need prop guards. According to Vic Moss, who is our expert, the FAA has said, well, as long as you have a parachute, you really don't need the prop guards. So that's up to you. I put that provision in my request, which I'll show you here in a couple of minutes. But so I do add the prop guards anyway. Plus, I fly a lot around San Francisco, and you're prone to bird strikes and that kind of thing. It's just an added level of precaution I add to my drone. But again, I don't believe it's a requirement, quote unquote. So that's up to you whether or not you need that. Of course, you need your anti-collision light on there, so your strobe, and even in the daytime that needs to be flashing and it needs to be on there. Then you're going to need your visual observer. So I'm going to take a look at my list of drones here and list these off as the 0.88 to the less than 3.5 pounds. That's the DJI Air, DJI Mavic, Autel Lite, and Evo 2, Parrot, and Nifi AI, Skydio 2 and X2, Phantom 4 and V2, DJI FPV, and the Avata 1, So Avata 2 probably will be in that list as well. Over 0.55 pounds and under 0.88 pounds or less. Here's what's needed for that. Specifically, you do need your prop guards, you need your anti-collision lights, and you do need a visual observer and remote ID as well. The remote ID is pretty much a requirement for all these drones now, so just keep that in mind. The drones that are specifically in this category are all DJI mini drones, the Autel Nano, the Parrot, Anifi, and the Anifi Thermal, and the DJI Avata 2. Okay, so the piece that you put in about the actual reason for this is important, right? They want to know that you have a justification for doing this. It's not just for fun or whatever. So I'll give you my example. But again, you have to make this your own because they're going to know if you're copying other people's work. It's a small office. There's only a very few people in there fielding these requests all day. So if you copy and paste or plagiarize somebody else, they're going to know it, and you're probably going to get denied. So first thing I'll say is have good justification. I'll use Sky Elements Drones is a company I filmed for every summer, and I have to fly at these fairs, right? And I have to go. There's no way for me to not go over people or traffic. They're very, very busy venues, right? And so I use this as my impetus for the request. So essentially, I just said, hey, look, I have to get up and I got to traverse and I got to do this and I got to do that. It's a problem. So I'm requesting these two waivers so I can legally do this. And they came back and they approved it, right? So what did I put in this request besides that? They're going to want to know very specifics with that specific drone because it's tied to the drone. So in my case, it's the Mavic 3 Pro, right? And I have to have the parachute on it. And I talk about, with the battery or if it's extended battery or whatever. I put all those together and then I weight it. And then I give them the exact weight. So you can see in my request here that I'm sharing with you guys all the details that I put in there. And I maybe overdid it in this, but it's better to overdo it than underdo it. They're going to want to know specifics about everything. So include it all. That's your best bet, and be honest. Additionally, I've separately requested there's a very specific shot I want near the Bay Bridge and I'll show you here, of traffic. And it's traversing right over the top of traffic. Now, I went to the FAA with low expectations of getting this approved. And I was very specific on, like, I want to do a hyperlapse. I'm filming a documentary for this stuff. I want to get right over traffic, and I want to crawl up the freeway as the traffic is moving at such and such altitude, etc., etc. Very specific. They came back and they approved it. And I was really shocked at this. So I think a lot of people will look at my feed and go, wow, that is totally illegal. But hey, man, I went out and I did the work and I got the waivers. It is legal. And if anybody reports that to the FAA will go, oh, yeah, he's already got this. So because they have all of that in their data banks. So it never hurts to make the request. I have had some turned down as well, right? So just do your best. And finally, let's talk about LAANC requests. LAANC requests are not part of waivers. They're completely separate. So if you're going to be flying around an airport or something that requires your LAANC, right, a Class B airspace, that type of thing, you still have to request a LAANC. You do that through your AirAware app or whatever, Air Control or whatever your app is. I tend to use a lot for all of my stuff. But you make that request regardless, right? So even if you have your waivers, a LAANC is a completely separate thing.